these sharks and the gang at the analyst desk.
Yep. I'm here with my gang, all right. Looking at that game, as Post touched on already, 52 minutes, almost very, very, very long game. And to me, a lot of factors showing that these teams are playing for the LCS spot and just, well, with decision-making in different phases of the game for both teams.
Yeah, definitely a very passive approach from both. I mean, we saw Dignitas early on get these dragons here, so they clearly said we're going to go for 5 dragons. We're not really going to risk making any plays, also because the way the lane swap played out, Aurelia got very far ahead of the Fist, so the whole split pushing component or split pushing option was gone. And all they could do was really try and create picks here and there, but because Mouse was so passive as well, it was hard to find an opening. And we saw a few times where they whiffed some ultis, we had some replays of them as well, but overall, very long game, very passive. One team said they had to, another team seemed like they didn't really want to do anything at all.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting because that was how Miles ended up beating Gamers 2 in the semi-final as well. Playing very passive, very safe, waited for a mistake, and Dignitas just didn't really give a mistake. They didn't play super proactively, so they couldn't get punished either. We actually got a replay early on about some of the decision-making that I know Crepo, you and DeFisher were talking about. Let's get that first replay up onto your screen. And Dignitas EU trying to siege into a Victor. It's not always going to work with that wave clear.
I mean, it's quickly sped up, so what you have to just keep in mind is that every time this wave arrives, Victor will just immediately clear it, even though obviously Ari clears it first. What I want to highlight here is just that this is the stylistic styles just of these both teams. Mouse is playing 1-3-1 split push with Dan with the Black Cleaver. They've done this before. Usually they manipulate the waves and get the dragons. However, due to the way the early game played out, now Dignitas EU are in the lead, but outside of getting those dragons, they didn't really know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this situation, we have Binsu and Aurelia freezing the wave. That's again why he got such a massive CS lead, because they ganked and got the first spot on Fizz in the top lane. The wave bounced back, so he froze it. That's where you normally, as a team, either you make a play on the opposite side of the map. They did. They got the tower. And then you move in and you push the guy in. You reset the wave, get into tower. They spend like, 30, 40 seconds in mid lane, giving 2 extra waves to Aurelia. Then they push it out. And that was one of the reasons they couldn't do anything other than the 5 dragons. And that's also why we just got to see team fight after team fight after team fight, always around the dragons.
Yeah, and that was actually the one thing stopping Dignitas EU from snowballing this game, was that really fed Aurelia. And that's actually highlighted in our second replay that we can bring up on your screen right now, is where if Dignitas EU want to commit too much to catching out Binsu right here, he flashes out. Just watch how many ultimates get used on Binsu right now.
And this was really a problem for Dignitas. When it came to coordinating the engage, either it would be like Nisbet flashing forward, missing his tippers, or he would go in alone and the other members didn't follow. So when you're against a Cleanse Victor and a Janna, there was enough disengage if you went in 1 by 1. So here, all 5 people committed instead on one guy, and obviously ends up losing the game, the fight.
Not the game, yeah.
Because now the backline was simply not under threat.
Yeah, they just couldn't deal with the Cleanse Victor. Eventually, though, when this Cleanse is on cooldown, that's when he's most vulnerable. Or if you can just immediately stack the CC on top of him. Xayou had some impressive cleanses throughout the entire game, and I really like what I saw from him. Just at one point, it wasn't enough, and they tried to fight without cleanse, and then, yeah, things kind of go awry.
It really did. The thing is that was interesting for this game is that Mouse traditionally had come into this being the Dragon Control team. Dignitas attacked them at their strong point. Dignitas removed that threat from Mouse very early on. But then both teams had this gentlemanly agreement to only fight around Dragon, because there was no deep vision, there was no pushing lanes, there was no banner of command to put even more pressure on the map, there was no Baron bait. If Dragon wasn't up, basically nothing happened for most of this game, and I think both teams need to try to adjust that if they want to take a stronger control of the mid game and try to push a lead further.
Yeah, good point. It did come to 5 dragons in this one, and it was Dignitas EU in the end that well got it. And you were talking about the Victor, and when the Cleanse is down, that's our final replay, which is the game-winning fight also in favor of Dignitas EU, which was a very beautiful engage, so to say, as well from Gragas.
Yeah, it's a very good engage. No wards on the flanks from Mousesports. It's a big problem this late in the game. So yeah, they get caught out, Xayou dies, no Cleanse. Also, one thing we have to note about this Mouse team when they run Rek'Sai is getting the farm in the mid to late game. So he had like 100+ CS on Orpheus, but it means you got to take the farm from someone. Cedrion on Corki, he's the guy getting denied. He had like 3 items completed and a QSS. He had no damage at all. Like he had 0 damage in the late game on a Corki. So I think Dignitas simply said, we can't split push. We can go for 5 dragons. We can just wait it out because we know we're also going to outscale them because of the fact Corki is not getting farm, and Rek'Sai naturally will not scale that well into late game. So I think they were happy enough waiting just for late game.
Yeah, and I think Obvious did a lot more with less farm right there, but he's in sense a utility jungler on Gragas. He just found the engage, made it happen, and that was enough for his team. It doesn't matter if he has 100, 200, 300 CS, as long as he gets a flank off. But speaking on the topic of flanks, that is something I was lacking this game a little bit. They tried it with Fizz sometimes, Aurelia, but just these broader concepts that you see more in higher level games. So talk about flanking, talk about teleport plays, talk about deep vision, setting up more objectives than just the Dragon. I felt lacking. So if both these teams want to have a shot at doing well in the LCS, they'll have to expand their strategy pool, because simply playing around the Dragon in this day and age is just, yeah, it's not going to work.
Well, speaking about LCS, earlier we asked which challenger team you think is more prepared for the LCS, and with one game down, let's hear what you had to say from @DaddyShelton. I feel like Dig EU is the most prepared EUCS team. Their strategy needs work, but their raw individual talent can't be taught. While those are strong words and words.
It's worlds.
It's worlds. Could you honestly say that from this game, that it was raw talent for one of the other? I think it was more team play and strategic decision making, or lack thereof.
I mean, I think we did get a good taste of some of the raw talent on the team, especially like when it came to creating the leads early on, at least for them. Strategically, again, it's tough to say much about this game on a strategic level, because of the fact they simply said, we're just going to wait 5 dragons. We can't split push. We're going to outscale. We're just going to take it super easy in that case. It's hard to criticize too much on that, but it was way too passive for them. They should definitely push it harder.
I do think we saw some nice plays, especially Senkooks had a good opening to combine that with, obviously, in the early game to take down the Victor. What I want to see, though, in the next few games is whether these things that are happening are trends or just a one-game occurrence. Because in terms of trends, Mouse got exactly what they wanted in the drafting phase already. Like, half of their team comps we could even predict already, just saying, okay, this guy always plays Corki, always plays Janna, always plays X and Y. And
first pick Rek'Sai.
First pick Rek'Sai comes through. So is this trend going to continue, or are these teams flexible enough to adapt? Because raw talent alone won't get you there.
We'll see what happens. 5 dragons, 5 games in a row. Let's do it. Anyway, it's time for a short break, but in just a few minutes, Mousesports and Team Dignitas EU will return to the Rift for Game 2 in this best of 5